In this video, we'll use gamma exposure to identify the key levels for this week, select trades that can be put on, and I'll also share something interesting with you. To kick things off, let's break down how tracking market maker activity can help you build trading strategies and the kind of results you can expect. Since practical examples are always more effective than theory, let's look at a case study. In my last YouTube video, we discussed how despite the massive drop on June 5th, the mathematical models we rely on didn't flash any sell signals or suggest the sell-off would continue. I told you back then that if a signal like that popped up in the coming days, I'd definitely let you know, but in the end it never showed up. From a technical analysis perspective, the main support was at the 50-day moving average, and the idea was that if, upon touching this moving average the week before last, the inflation data had come in line with expectations or better, it would have given the bulls new hope. And to refresh your memory, let me attach a short clip from the previous video. The indicators and mathematical models we rely on are not yet showing a trend reversal signal. Confirmation or refutation of this will come in a couple of days, and once the data is in, I will be sure to let you know the results. From a technical analysis perspective, the nearest and main support right now is the 50-day moving average. If this line is touched this week and the inflation data comes in better than expected, that would reduce yields and give the bulls new hope. But let's look at this situation through the lens of gamma exposure, because that gave us a much clearer understanding of what was happening in the market. If on Monday, June 8th, you had opened our app, the link to which is in the description below this video, pulled up the weekly gamma exposure profile on SPY, and selected the expiration dates from Monday through Friday inclusive, it would have looked like this. The week started in negative gamma territory, indicating that bearish sentiment prevailed. The gamma flip zone formed the nearest resistance level at the 746 strike. Above this zone, there was a buildup of positive gamma values, which we could mark as higher resistance levels. However, before we could even consider the possibility of the price reaching that high, it first needed to establish itself above the gamma flip zone. So back then, everything above the 746 level could be viewed as one large resistance zone where the price would be under pressure. As for support levels, the nearest was at the 730 strike, and the main strike that stood out was 720, where the largest negative and absolute gamma values were located. Once Monday ended and Tuesday arrived, we saw that over the remaining 4 days from Tuesday through Friday inclusive, the gamma exposure profile had barely changed. This meant that Monday was not decisive for the week and that the main move was still ahead and would occur over the remaining 4 days. And this is where things get really interesting, because the 720 strike still stood out among all the others, and such values are typically seen as a reference point toward which the price should move. But when we excluded Tuesday and Wednesday from the analysis and left only Thursday and Friday, we saw that the 720 strike completely collapsed, and it collapsed after Wednesday, which coincided with the inflation data release on that very day. This suggested that dealers and market makers had certain concerns that by the time the inflation data was released, the market could drop to the 720 level. However, it was not seen as the key target for the entire week, but rather as a level where if the price ended up there, one would need to act according to the circumstances. Simply put, if the inflation data had been negative, starting from Wednesday the market would have completely fallen under the control of the bears, and the higher 730 strike would then have been viewed as resistance. On the upside, if the data had come in positive, the 720 range would have marked the end of the downward correction. Plus, the 50-day moving average was also in that area, which further reinforced the significance of this range. The main idea was to bet on trading within a fairly wide range, with the possibility of the price declining all the way down to the 7200 level. So the first of the strategies offered in the previous video was an iron condor on the SPX expiring on Friday, June 12th, with the left wing set at the 7300 level and the right wing at the 7500 level. With this condor, we captured a fairly wide range from the resistance level down to the support level based on the gamma exposure profile. Also proposed was opening a calendar put spread, choosing the 7200 strikes with expiration on Friday. This was a bet on a market decline, and it was very easy to hedge using the same iron condor. However, the main trading idea was to open a structure like this on the SPX. With this structure, we made money even on a slight market decline and maximized profit around the 7200 and 7400 strikes. As a hedge against the possibility of a rise, it was suggested to open a call butterfly on the SPX, but with a shift in expiration dates. While the main structure was opened with Friday expiration, the call butterfly was set to expire on Thursday. The idea was that if on Thursday the price rose to 74.70 or 74.80, this position would be at risk. But at that point above the 74.80 level, the call butterfly would start generating profit, the losses would be hedged, and together the two structures could be closed for a gain. If by Thursday the price had been significantly below 74.80 and we understood that our main position was not at risk, we could close the call butterfly for a loss and hold the main position until Friday, and the profit on it would have been much larger. Now let's take a look at what happened to them. On Monday and Tuesday, the price twice tested the gamma flip zone, which was the nearest main resistance level. After that, a decline began, and on Wednesday, about 2.5 hours after the market opened, the price approached the first support level. Don't pay attention to this position, it was an intraday trade. But as for the main positions, 3 iron condors were generating about 10%, or roughly $70 in cash terms. I split this strategy into 2 parts, and combined it consisted of a diagonal put spread and a call butterfly. The profit on one part was about $840, the loss on the second part was about $120, and together the entire structure was in the green. Since the price fell, the hedging call butterfly was down roughly $90, but overall all positions were generating a profit. What I mean is that if we subtract 90 from 750, we get roughly $660 in profit. The next day, the price began to rise, and by the end of Thursday, SPY had reached the 738 level. Since the price was exactly in the middle of the iron condors range at that moment, it started showing good profit, about 50%. The combination consisting of the diagonal put spread and the call butterfly was also generating good profit, with the only loss coming from the hedging call butterfly. Overall, the positions were in solid positive territory, and in this situation it made sense to let the hedge expire with a loss while continuing to hold everything else until Friday. Because, for example, for the iron condor to be at risk, the price would have had to rise above 7,500 on the SPX the next day, or in SPY terms above the first resistance level. That was a long way off, and the probability of that happening on Friday was extremely low. At the same time, if the rally continued but was moderate, then within this structure the call butterfly would have started showing very good profit. If a decline had started on Friday, the iron condor would have been at risk only if the price moved below the first support level. But at that point, the diagonal put spread would have started generating huge profits, and all losses would have been offset. In other words, by Thursday, all trades were already in a superposition, and no matter which direction the price moved, everything would have been fine. By the end of Friday, the market had risen a bit more, and altogether, all positions brought in about $3,000. So all the trading ideas played out perfectly. We discussed that the price should drop to the 50-day moving average, and it did. We also suggested that if this touch coincided with decent inflation data, it would be a bullish argument, and the market began to rise. But most importantly, thanks to the gamma exposure profile, we understood the market sentiment perfectly well at the very beginning of the week. We saw the main resistance levels, we saw that the market could correct exactly by Wednesday, and thanks to all of this, we locked in yet another profitable week. So if you want to see in advance what's happening behind the scenes of the market and make timely, well-informed trading decisions, the link to the app with all the necessary information is in the description below this video. Last week, I didn't consider any medium-term trades because the week was fraught with elevated risks and uncertainty. The week was shortened, and on Thursday there was the largest options expiration in history. And probably the main event was the interest rate decision led by Kevin Warsh. The main intrigue right now is how the markets will assess his candidacy for the role of the new Fed chair. Because many analysts are already pricing in 2 rate hikes this year. Plus, Warsh himself stated that the Fed will no longer give forward guidance, and the direction will be set by incoming data. The thing is, starting with Bernanke, then Yellen, and of course our beloved Jerome Powell, all these guys were very fond of what you might call dovish rhetoric that supported the markets. What I mean is that their main goal was not so much to predict economic prospects as accurately as possible and communicate them to market participants, but rather to suppress volatility as much as possible. Of course, Powell also said that the Fed depends on incoming data and would keep its finger on the pulse, but between the lines he made it clear that the Fed would signal in advance before it actually did anything. Thanks to that, traders were relaxed because they knew there would be no uncertainty and that the Fed would always step in, whether through a QE program, rate cuts, or the discount window, as was the case with Silicon Valley Bank and First Republic Bank. Now, if we are to believe the new Fed chair, everything will depend on incoming data. And let me remind you that there are no problems with unemployment, the labor market is stable, and inflation remains elevated. Also this week before the new corporate earnings season, the buyback window closes, removing an additional source of support. From a technical analysis, the weekly probability distribution curve identifies the nearest 1 sigma resistance level at 73.75 and the nearest support level at 74.25. The 2 sigma support level is at 73.50, and that is also where the 50-day moving average is located. A wedge is also forming right now, and as a classic rule goes, whichever direction this wedge breaks, the momentum will continue in that direction. If we open the weekly gamma exposure profile on SPY and select the expiration dates from Monday through Friday inclusive, everything looks calm. The largest negative and absolute gamma values form the main weekly support at the 735 strike. Immediately below this level, there is another support at 730. The largest positive gamma values form the main weekly resistance at the 760 strike, but based on experience I can say that a move toward this level is not a priority scenario. The most interesting action is in the 745 to 750 range. Monday opened slightly above the gamma flip zone, and just above that level lies the nearest resistance at 750, consisting of a large cluster of absolute gamma and the nearest large positive gamma values. This level acted as resistance, the price reversed lower and the decline stopped at the 745 strike, where there are also very large absolute gamma values. So a battle between bulls and bears will play out in this range, and whichever side ultimately proves stronger, the market will go in that direction. Add to this the fact that all of this coincides with the wedge forming on the higher time frames. With all that in mind, we can say that there is a possibility the price could drop to the support levels, but we need to use a hedge against the possibility of a rise above the first resistance level. Thanks to the color gradient, we can see that if the first resistance level is broken, bullish momentum will begin to fade. However, if the price moves below 745, there is potential for a deeper decline down to the first support level. In this situation, we can open a calendar put spread on the SPX, choosing the nearest expiration date of June 26th and the 73.50 strikes. This position is inexpensive, and if the market declines, it will immediately start generating profit. This position can be easily hedged with an iron condor with the left wing set at the 7500 strike and the right wing at the 7600 strike. With this condor, we remove the risk of the price moving above the gamma flip zone and trading between the resistance levels. The positions should be opened at a ratio of 2 or 3 iron condors for every 1 calendar put spread. If we combine these strategies into one structure, we see that if by the middle of the week the market drops by 1.5%, which corresponds to the first support level, then with a minimum position size, the profit would range from $800 to $900. If the price rises slightly, the iron condor will begin to fulfill its hedging function and we will still be in profit, though the gain would be smaller than in the case of a decline. Instead of 2 iron condors, you could open 3 and then the profit in a rising market would be larger, but we would make less in the event of a market decline. There are actually many ways to hedge positions. For example, instead of an iron condor, you could use a call broken wing butterfly on SPY, shifting the expiration date by 1 day. What I mean is that if the calendar put spread is opened with expiration on Friday, then the call broken wing butterfly would have expiration on Thursday. For instance, if by Thursday the market falls by 1.5%, the profit from the calendar spread would be about $1,400 compared to a loss of $170. But if by Thursday the market rises by more than 1%, the call broken wing butterfly would offset most of the losses from the calendar put spread. Another option to consider is a call broken wing butterfly on the SPX, centering it at the 75.50 strike. This strike coincides with the 1 sigma resistance level, which creates a margin of safety in case the upward move continues. If, relative to the entry point, the market starts to decline, this strategy will immediately begin generating profit and can be closed. For those who prefer neutral strategies, an iron butterfly would be a good fit. It doesn't have to be held until expiration, and if the price stays within this range over the next few days, it can be closed for a profit. But even this position can be hedged against the possibility of a decline. For that, you could use a put butterfly. The idea is that if the price is within this range by Thursday, the iron butterfly will generate a profit of $700 to $1,000. The loss on the long put butterfly will not exceed $450, and the combination can be closed for a net profit. If the market drops by 1% by Thursday, the iron butterfly will be at risk, but at that point the profit on the long put butterfly will be approximately $600. As an alternative hedge, instead of the long put butterfly, you could use a diagonal put spread on SPY with proportions like these, but that's a matter of preference. Let's summarize. The main resistance is in the 745 to 750 range. If the resistance level is broken, bullish momentum will weaken, and there is a possibility of seeing a downward move toward the main support levels this week. That's all for today. Good luck with your trading and see you next time.